Okay, welcome. Hi, my name is Lori. Welcome to the Carson Observer Podcast, the official podcast for Carson Accountability and Transparency, connecting you with the public pillars who shape our community and keep the city running, educating you about government and how it functions, and informing you about the happenings in Carson and how it impacts your daily lives. Today, we are honored to have the 2022 recipients of the Momoli Civic Excellence Award, the members of the City of Carson COVID-19 Task Force, as our guests. To give a little background, as the global pandemic struck down in Carson, the members of the Carson COVID-19 Task Force spent countless hours helping residents and businesses get the services they needed. Here today, we have Rayanne, Amanda, Latoya, Danny, Savea, and we hope Mike will be joining us shortly. Welcome, you guys, and thank you for being with us today.
Thank you.
I would like to start with each of you really introducing yourself, telling us a little bit more about yourself, who you are, what your connection is to the city. We know that you're all city employees, but your role as an employee and then your role as the Carson Task Force member. Who'd like to start first?
Danny.
So my name is Danny Cook. I'm the Human Services Program Manager. I've been with the city 22 years, and I was the Human Services Supervisor at the time when the task force began. My role was a little bit varied. Mike Whitaker was kind of the task force manager, and so I just tried to be his right hand and wherever he needed me, just to try to oversee the logistics and kind of fill in for him when needed. So I try to do a little bit of everything, keep the team together.
As you did.
Thank you.
I can go. I'm Amanda Valerossi. I'm currently the Human Services Supervisor. But at the time, my title was Senior Assisted Living Coordinator in Human Services. I basically, my job pre-COVID was overseeing senior services, a lot of social service things. I've been with the city for 14 years. So. Oh, and on the task force, I think my title was part of the Spirit Squad with Latoya here, but it was a lot of overseeing senior things also. So the call center and staff that was going out to senior residents' homes.
Thank you.
I'll go ahead and go next. My name is Rayanne Molina Munoz. I've been with the city for 6 years. And during our COVID task force, I was the public safety specialist. And I, let's see, what was the last question again? Our connection to the city. Although I do not live in Carson, I'm a newly resident of Lakewood, but I pretty much feel like, work never stops, and I'm a public servant. And so I feel like I'm constantly making sure that our City of Carson residents are served with the utmost customer service. And how that led me into the COVID task force. My job duties basically were logistics, public safety, the sheriff's department liaison, and all things COVID task force. I was just the go-to person for many tasks, basically.
Yeah, thank you very much.
I can go next. Hi, my name is Savea Pugh. I'm one of the event coordinators from the Community Services Department. I work for the Community Center. During the COVID pandemic, I helped with the logistics and the planning as far as the Community Center side. Also, I was the lead for the grab and go program as far as ordering the food for those in need and making sure that we had enough staff, just throughout the whole planning process. Um, I've been a part of the city for about 28 years. Um, I grew up most of my life in the city of Carson. I had the luxury to start here when I was 15, and I've been here ever since. So, this kind of touches home for me. And, being able to help people that are in my community that I grew up with. So it was an honor to serve with the people that we have on this Zoom right now. But other than that, thank you.
Thank you very much.
I'm last. My name is Latoya Butler, and I am the Innovation and Business Liaison for the newly established Innovation, Sustainability, and Program Management Department for the City of Carson. I have, during the task force, I was brought in to assist the business community with their needs, as I was the only person working in business development at the time. By the end of COVID, I was a spirit coordinator. I helped bag food. I helped push food. I helped do trash. We were counting toilets and diapers. Yeah, a bunch of stuff. I have worked for the city for 22 years. Although I have never, I lived in Carson for a little bit, but Carson is definitely my second home. I am a transplant from the Northern California, the San Francisco Bay Area, where I am an avid 49er fan. And although COVID was awful for everybody, there were so many silver linings in that. I met so many wonderful people, and I'm sure we'll get into that at some point.
Awesome. Thank you all for being here and giving us a little background about your connection to the city of Carson.
Lori, may I add one more thing?
Yes, please.
Sorry, I just want to say that the task force is like 90 people strong. And so we are just a very, very small sample from the entire task force. So I just want to make sure, I hope we represent them well, but I just really want everyone to know that it was much larger than this group of people and to give them the credit that they deserve as well.
Thank you for that addition, Danny, because there was a very large group, a very large team to see through the things that the task force were responsible for, which is why this podcast was so important to us with Kat, to bring awareness to the city, how the city actually functioned when everything was shut down. It was essentially you all, the 90 so people that came together when everyone else was at home. You guys made the choice not to be home, but to be here in the city. So we thank you for that. We thank you on behalf of the residents of Carson, and we hope that today's podcast can shed a little light on some of the things that you guys endured during that time. So that brings us to walking us through the shutdown. So the first week of shutdown, what it was like for you. The governor shut down the state, and what was going on at Carson City Hall. Anyone want to take that lead?
I'll do my best. I was hoping Mike would be on for this part, but I think it was somewhere around March 17th, 2020 is when the local state of emergency was declared. And so I don't know exactly how it happened at the city council meeting. I'm not sure if it was a council decision or if it was the city manager at the time, Sharon Landers, but they decided to create this task force. And Mike Whitaker was sort of tasked with being the head of the task force. And obviously there's no blueprint for a pandemic. I mean, no one, had a plan for this. So Mike came back to Human Services and I think started with us in terms of creating his team simply because it was familiar work, right? It's kind of what we do anyways, a lot of social services and working with people and outreach. And so he kind of started from within and then really kind of got to hand select his team. And so I want to be fair to the other city employees. It was a choice for us to stay, but it wasn't a choice for everyone. I think there are so many other employees who would have liked to have been on the task force and just weren't given that opportunity. So I really want to be fair to them. it wasn't just 90 people who said yes. But yeah, it was a whirlwind. It was meeting. I mean, Lori, you were there with us. So as soon as everyone got sent home, and there were, I don't know, maybe 20 of us at the time, we met at the community center. You saw the same 20 people in the building every single day. We each had our own table and our own chair and PPE, and we were learning so much about masks and sanitizing. And so that's how it really began, was just creating this team and meeting and brainstorming.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that is right. There were those tables. We sat 6 feet apart because in the beginning we had no idea what we were really up against. So we took the precautions, and you guys all jumped right in to serve the residents. So let's go into some of the stats and some of the services that the task force provided to the residents and the businesses. Is there anyone that has some of that information offhand?
I do have some numbers, and then maybe each person can kind of talk about the programs that they led. Mm-hmm. One of the first things that we established was a call center. And in that brainstorming session, we knew residents would be, scared and need someone to talk to. And not that we had the answers. Sometimes it was just a matter of providing a live person on the other end of the line, just a friendly voice and a little bit of reassurance. So in the call center, we fielded over 17,000 calls throughout the duration of the task force. Grab and Go is a program. I'll go through all the stats, and then everyone can touch on what each one was about. Grab and Go is a lunch distribution program. The last number I could find is that we served over 254,000 lunches throughout the duration. And Surveyor will be happy to tell you about what he did all day, every day for 2+ years. Our staff assisted the YMCA with Meals on Wheels. And so as soon as the congregate lunch program closed, the building shut down, seniors who typically came to the community center for lunch could no longer do so. They expanded the Meals on Wheels program. So our staff helped deliver over 11,000 Meals on Wheels just to support the YMCA. We opened a testing site in the parking lot, which for me personally, I was the most nervous about. That was mostly recreation center supervisors and recreation staff who came back to work to run the testing center. And I think that was a very intimidating place to be, not knowing, the ins and outs of COVID and how it was spread. But they did an amazing job, rain or shine, Tyvek suits, masks, face shields. It didn't matter. They were out there face to face with the public. And the last number I could find is that we supplied over 45,000 COVID tests. We opened a vaccine clinic with a partnership with Carson Pharmacy. They were amazing to work with. So they came into the community center. We developed a registration process. I think all of us on this call were part of the vaccine clinic. And I don't have figures on that because Carson Pharmacy collected that, but I can safely say they distributed thousands of vaccines throughout the duration of the task force. And then finally, Carson Essentials to Go was a grocery delivery program. That it's actually still going. It will end this month. It'll end the end of April 2023. But the last number I could find is that it's not even exact, but that we've delivered over 3,000 grocery packages to Carson residents. And that was through a partnership with Norms. So from day one, they've supplied all the groceries. Our staff would go pick them up, deliver them to the seniors. It was a way to keep seniors safer at home. That was the goal, was just, allowing them to reduce their risk of contracting COVID. So, but I don't mean to talk so much. So I don't know if we want to go back maybe to the call center and Amanda, and you can talk more about that. We'll start there.
Oh yeah, no, I didn't have those numbers off the top of my head, so we're good.
I had to look up.
So a lot of what I do with the seniors, even before all of this, I feel like my job wasn't as different maybe as some people's, because I was able to still utilize a lot of the skills and the staff, and that we help seniors anyway in Carson very well. here. So we had a call center with staff from different departments that was running Monday through Friday. Is that right? No, I think. Anyway, it was every day. It seemed like days seemed very long and days blended together. And but we had amazing staff in there that couldn't possibly even keep up with the calls. And a lot of that, like Danny mentioned, was a lot of just reassurance. I mean, I'm used to dealing with seniors and resources and all that, but this was panic, right? So it was very different to deal with residents, not just seniors, but specifically they were a vulnerable population and being, warned about their risks, obviously. So our call center staff was great in just fielding all these calls, and they'd come into just messages they couldn't possibly keep up with either. And it was everything and anything and everything from I need water to my home, I need and food and all the essentials, obviously. And if you remember, I forget a lot of stuff, but I mean, that was a time when you couldn't get toilet paper, you couldn't get all these. I know toilet paper is the one everyone always thinks about, but you couldn't get stuff. People were panicked and they already couldn't get out maybe, and now they couldn't get out and they didn't have things they needed. So we were dealing with a lot of calls, and then also staff going to the homes, delivering things, doing grocery shopping, figuring out how to get them essentials to keep them safe and calm and at home. So
thank you.
Yeah.
I remember some of the stories from the call center. So thank you for going above and beyond in there. Go ahead, Rayanne.
I really think that the call center was a vital tool that we had during the pandemic because, as it was previously mentioned, a lot of our seniors, and we don't always think about them, but during that time, we really had to think, outside of the box, like how many mobile home park communities do we have? How many seniors are living in those communities? And I think our team did a really good job at capturing what truly was the need and how could we apply programs that would fit the City of Carson residents' needs at that time. And I think now thinking about it, it's like these programs are already in place and they're moving and they're developed, but during that time they weren't, so we truly built them from the ground up and, a lot of trial and error, just as every other city. But I remember being in meetings with different, our Area E, that's what we call it, for our regional, of all throughout California. We're kind of broken up in different sections. And people were reaching out to me, asking me, what is it that the City of Carson is doing? So we essentially were a model to other cities. And, the programs that we instilled, I know other cities such as Lakewood and Paramount, those cities started kind of doing what we were doing. So, during that time, everyone was piggyback off of each other, but I think we're one of the cities that had a team, and, with the leadership that we had with David Roberts who was our assistant city manager at the time, in addition to Mike, I think, they really led our boat, so to speak, in the right direction. And, everybody was rowing at the same time. And that's what we needed to get things done. And I think with not just the faces you see here, but a lot of others who are not here all took lead. And, we made things happen with very to little tools.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Anyone else want to add in about the Meals on Wheels or the testing site, the grab and go?
I did want to speak about grab and go. I actually wasn't there at the beginning for grab and go, but we did jump in to try to fill the void when we needed more staff. So that's how I got started working with them. I know all these ladies that are here in the Zoom right now, they were probably the ones that actually started it. I was more of a person that wherever they needed help, I was there. And then eventually I kind of took over because we had so many individuals that were needed elsewhere. And, we had to try to utilize their strengths. Like, we have some very strong women on the Zoom right now that are very talented, and I'm the only guy. Yeah. So, with grab and go, man, it was a roller coaster when I started to take over the whole planning, the logistics, the ordering, the scheduling of staff, inventory. It was more because you get to talk to the people that come to pick up lunches, and it's sad to hear some of the stories that you hear. We have sometimes there'll be like two families in one car, or I know the trailer park we're trying to communities were trying to work out something to where one car can pick up for the whole trailer park, and we would always try to accommodate them. And then there were families that needed more than what we were giving. And I'm very thankful for our management because we were able to provide extra additional boxes and that we would actually give out to those families. And I think there was some donations. They were donating like 10, 15 pallets at one time. Is that correct, Danny? Who was that? Panera Bread?
We did get a donation from Panera, but on a daily basis, it was Lisa Amos and the Lighthouse. So their organization, I think traditionally they provide lunches to school children, but since LAUSD took that over during the pandemic, they shifted their focus to the community center.
They were such a great help as far as trying to get us what we need so we can serve our community. Staff, the morale was always on the uppity up due to Latoya and Amanda, thankfully. And, like Ray was saying, she's everywhere. If I was short staffed, all these ladies would be willing to help. And I think that's what really helped our task force or our group, is that anybody was willing to step up. So as far as the grab and go and the community center, I think during that time we were just lucky to have the group that we had and the help that we had. Other than that, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else want to add?
I'll just add on. It was a huge group of very selfless people. And I also think that no matter what your position was, whether or not you were a manager in public or whatever, different departments, we didn't see each other in that way at all. Nobody had a title during this time, really. I mean, we gave ourselves titles, but nobody had a hierarchy of positions, or the same people that were pulling, incontinent supplies out of storage to bring to seniors were also, making decisions up here with council. We were all the same, and we all saw each other that way and respected each other that way. And no one was above doing anything that we were working on. So,
amen to that.
Yeah, that's what made the group so efficient, because you had this camaraderie that you worked together.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry. If I may add, I think it should just be noted that, kind of echoing to Amanda's point, both David and Mike were there packing lunches with us and in the vehicles transporting. And so when you have leadership like that, your team behind you, I know I keep referencing that, but it just made all the difference. And the camaraderie, and everybody was on the same level and feeling the same type of way. And Mike always made it a point, hey, how are you doing today? How are you feeling? And who knows what he was going through? I mean, a dad and a manager leading this team through something we've never dealt with. So I'll never forget that.
Mm-hmm. And that brings me to something else I like to share. There in a regular day for the task force, you guys went through so many different phases of that day. You would have your meeting, you would do the grab and go, you would pack for the next day. Can someone walk us through what a typical day or week was like for the task force?
No. Know who wants to take this? It's funny. I was thinking about this with this meeting coming up, this interview, and I literally don't remember some things. I think we were all in such a state of just numbness a little bit too, to be able to come every day and do the jobs we were doing. I forget things. I was cleaning out my car recently and found the letter that we had to carry around with us so that we could be on the road to go to work. Like, what a weird, crazy time. And that's just to say I don't remember a lot of those days, but and I'm sure somebody else can probably better. We were all over the place too.
Yeah, I know in the beginning there were 3 meetings a week, right? Monday, Wednesday, Friday.
Yeah, for the big group with the community and with other departments and all that, for sure.
And then I know before the meeting, because the meeting didn't start till maybe 10:30, 11. So before the meeting, you guys were rushing to the meeting, some of you from the grab and go, from the testing site, from the call center. Like there were all these pieces that would come together for the meeting, and then you guys would leave the meeting and go to other parts of these puzzle that we essentially had put together to get the city through. How did that affect your personal lives? I know we were trying to keep the city safe and keep the staff that was there safe, but how did that affect your personal lives being thrust into this new role?
So I like legitimately, I do not like to talk about COVID. I hate it. I get so emotional because we were tasked with these things and we did it seamlessly. Like everybody, I know there were people that didn't get the opportunity to be on the task force, but the people that were picked to do it, like 98% of us was there for any task that needed to be done. But all the pandemic and all that stuff wasn't lost on us. We still had the same fears and the same concerns. We still had to go home to our families, but we still, in the face of all of that, pushed through. And so that's why everybody on this call, like I have the utmost respect and love for. I feel like I have friends, I've made friends that I wouldn't have had the opportunity to make friends with. This is what I'm talking about, that COVID silver lining. I couldn't imagine my life without anybody, even Savea the Cowboys. Like, I don't know that I would have had an opportunity outside of this pandemic to meet people who have the same heart as I do and wanting just the best for the city, for its residents, and going above and beyond, but still doing all of that and coming back and going home. Because my cousin at the time, she has a medical condition and she couldn't afford to get sick, like literally. So coming home and have to undress in the garage to make sure that you're clean because you've been, amongst all of these people and doing all of these things. And then just when we're helping people, and like Sabea was saying, just the people and their stories and the looks on their faces of the need and just being so scared and having to do that with having a smile on our faces. Like I just don't like to talk. It makes me happy and sad. Happy that there are people in this world that are like us, and sad that there are people in this world that when there's something of this drastic of a pandemic, like they are in need and so in need that they have, to sit in their car for an hour to wait for food or pray that somebody can help them get coins to wash their clothes. Like, I don't remember what the question was.
You did a great job covering.
Nailed it.
Because I'm about to.
I know, I'm getting teary-eyed over here.
Yeah. She touched on it for sure. I think that's like the biggest thing is that we found this group of people that we do all have these hearts that like wouldn't let us not be here for whatever reason, whatever we had going on in our personal lives or not going on in our personal lives. But and I don't think even our people in our lives, like most people on this call, they went home to people that at least knew they were kind of what they were doing all day. Like, I don't even think a lot of my friends and family really knew what I was doing. And then you're not seeing people. They know you're working, but a lot of people are working. They're working safely at home and they're whatnot. But we really were front lines. Like I was remembering that 7 p.m. thing that was happening in the beginning and for a long time, where people would go out. I live in a neighborhood with a lot of balconies and a lot of apartments and that. So we would have just gotten home, right? We worked 7 to 6 and that would start and just remind me that like what we were doing was amazing, really. I mean, I know we're not healthcare workers or whatnot, but we were helping people stay at home and stay safe. And well, we weren't necessarily. So I don't remember the question now either, except that I can say that some of us worked together for years and years and years in separate departments. And we said hi and we were cordial and we knew who each other were, but we weren't connected. And we really bonded over this crazy experience and going through it together. And I think we do anything for each other now. All of the people that are on this call and off of this call, like we just know we know who we are now, and we do it all over again. I'm sure. It was longer than the 2 weeks that we thought it was going to be, but
yeah. And I know Danny wanted us to stay completely positive, and I promise I am, Danny. But I think it's important to say that yes, we were all asked, but we all had the option to say no. And there were people that were asked and they said no. And that's how other people came in. Like when Savannah was like, "Oh, I'm trying to find people." People had the opportunity to say no. But the people that were there said yes, and not just because they didn't want to be at home or thought they were going to get some pay that we never got. If they really genuinely wanted to come and help and gave it their all, because they could have stayed home and got unemployment or wherever, there was all kind of money being thrown around. We were still getting our same salaries. And we were fine with that because we knew it was something greater than money that we were doing. It was greater than any one of us individually. It was for humankind, like literally.
And
see, Danny, I did.
No, you're fine. You're fine. I don't want to alter what you would like to say at all. And so I didn't make you feel that way, but she's right. I mean, especially for the part-time employees, all of us happen to be full-time employees. But I think I felt the most for the part-time employees who may have been making $15 an hour and had the option to stay home and collect unemployment plus $600 a week. And when we learned that was happening, we sat down with each group and had that conversation and just explained, like, this is a personal decision and it is okay if you
understand.
We understand if you need to go be home and be with your family, and it's okay to say so. And not one single person left the task force. And that it's just such a selfless group. And Toy's right. They didn't see it. It wasn't about the money. It was like, no, this is my community. And it wasn't even just the public. It's the love and respect that the task force members had for each other. And people were so selfless. I know there was one of our employees who worked in the call center, didn't see her grandmother for over a year out of respect because she knew she was coming to work and she was exposed. And my niece was born in February of 2020, my one and only niece. And it's heartbreaking you just want to go and like, I want to meet her, I want to hold her. My brother and sister-in-law drove the baby from Portland, Oregon to San Diego and back so that everyone could meet her. But it's exactly what Toy and Ray were saying. Like, I got home, I went in through the backyard, I got right in the shower, I changed. Like, you just had to be so cautious, but every single person on the task force was that aware and that respectful and that selfless. And it's just such a foreign world, right? Like, we weren't used to that wasn't our routine, but everyone had that same level of respect. And everyone, I don't want to point fingers, I don't want to misspeak, but probably everyone on this call cried one day at work. Like,
one day.
I don't know what you're talking about, Danny.
I know. I wasn't naming names, but
I cried every day.
Everyone had a meltdown at some point. It wasn't all of us on the same day, but it was such a roller coaster, and there were highs and lows, and everyone. I know Ray talked about Mike, but everyone was so good about checking in with one another and checking on each other's mental health, because it was brutal. But then something amazing happens and, morale gets picked up again. So,
Can I
And
add on
also,
to that?
like, we physically and mentally exhausted at the end of the day. I don't think any of us took a day off. I think we just showed up like every day.
I was just going to say that after a while, it's like, even as much as you did not want to go, you didn't want to work, you didn't want to leave the house because of what was going on, you didn't want to let these people down. Like, I would think about personal people here, and I was like, I can't, like, this is happening and this is happening, and I can't leave them. So
Yeah.
I think everyone was like that.
Good way to kind of segue back into, the daily tasks. We were very limited with staff, and what we accomplished and all the programs that we had, every one of us played a vital role, whether it was the packing of the food. If 2 people were missing, then it was up to the team to pick up those 2 people. And I know it now, it sounds like, what do you mean only 2 people? But it really made all the difference. And going back to what Amanda said, everybody really relied on each other. And I guess I could share my personal, during the time when, I know we talked about the toilet paper, but when there was no toilet paper and the shelves were empty, we were at work during that time, and we didn't have the opportunity to go to the store and buy what we needed to buy. And during that time, my spouse was sequestered through his job. And so I was left by myself and my mother-in-law, and, she has various health issues. And so it was like being mindful. Okay, I need to get the groceries. And I remember telling, I think it was Victor, hey, like, what are we doing for the team? Like, how are we going to provide for our own families or ourselves? And so quickly, that's, I think, kind of like was a segue into us working with Norms, because then Norms was providing us as a team some assistance with, like, being able to have our own food when we got home, whether it was bread, milk, eggs, all the things that were super hard to get during that time. So yeah, mentally, I'm kind of like trying to take myself back there, and man, it was stressful. Mm-hmm. Stressful.
I think we're all still, I was thinking about it myself, you can correct me, but like, I'm still recovering from like a lot of like physically, mentally, all of that. It was like aging in dog years for a few years there, and just, it shows. I think I feel it for sure. It's a lot.
Yeah.
We were literally people who were home working out and
yeah. I was just gonna say that, buying Teslas and 20 pounds lighters. Like, what is happening with you? Oh, I work out every day. Oh, really?
Yeah.
Nice. Nice.
We were here.
So, you guys have talked about a few of the unique experiences that you had there. We know that some of the task force members were thrown into the Dominguez Channel odor situation and providing air purifiers for the city. So again, we thank you for that, because again, this group of people are just hands-on, and it has nothing to do with your job title and what you're paid for with the city. But you guys jumped into providing those air purifiers as well. But is there a unique experience? We heard about delivering quarters. I remember the call center took a lot of calls from our elders, really just lonely, looking to talk, because not only were they stuck in their homes, but they were separated from their families. So I know our elders were a big thing for us in the call center. But were there any unique experiences that anyone wants to share that was above and beyond even what you thought would have happened as a task force member?
I mean, just to touch on the older adults, like you said, the elders, we already run a lot of programs, as I mentioned, for seniors in their homes, homebound seniors, right? But all of a sudden we were in a situation where it's like, well, we know those ones, but those are just a small percentage of like all the seniors. And how do we even possibly find and touch and help all these other seniors, so it became a huge task. Also, we were introduced to so many new residents and seniors that had never taken advantage of any of our programs or been in any of our system for any reason, and now they needed help too, and they realized they needed it. We met a 101-year-old that I had never met her before. I feel like I know a lot of the seniors here, but she was living alone still, and she called our call center during COVID, is how we found her, because she needed her pilot lit, and we had a staff member go over there and help her with that. And now she's been part of some of our other programs and that, but I mean, that's just one. There's probably something every day that happened around here. Homelessness also, all of a sudden it was like, how are we reaching those people that are already in a situation, but now there's a pandemic on top of that, like limiting their resources. So I'm sure other people have examples, but.
Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
Lori, I had a question. So I was just thinking about, that time frame, right? And I was thinking about how my regular day would be, usually on a daily basis during that time. And usually, if I can just explain real quick how my day would usually go.
Please do.
So I would leave for work. I'd get to work, open the facility, and then usually it'd be me and probably one more person that would go out there. We would set up where they would do the testing for the COVID. Then we would go out and set grab and go for the drive-through on the opposite side. And then we would make sure that everything else is set. Next thing we'll do is we'll be waiting for the truck to receive all the food that's coming in. This is before a majority of the staff that's assigned comes in. So we're usually doing this with a short amount of staff. And most of these ladies have helped with that. So, we would unload the pallets of food or whatever it is. After that, we would go and complete more setups that were going on as far as what was going on in the facility. We'll have our meeting, go back out for grab and go, complete grab and go. After that, go to traffic, do some traffic control in the parking lot for the COVID testing. And then after that, we would go and do Carson Essentials. I know a couple times when we were doing Carson Essentials, we would actually work past the time that we were supposed to work. And a lot of employees did that only because they knew that there were families out there that needed that food. Yeah. Doing that repetitively every day for weeks, it can wear on you sometimes. And it can be frustrating. But there was so many times where I worked past my shift. Like I had a coworker tell me, man, I have to go do this. I have to go take this over here, but I need this food to be delivered over here. And we would volunteer to do that, right? So I went and did it a couple times, even though as tired as I was, I still went and did it. And there was a couple instances where I had families come up and hug me when they're not even supposed to touch me. So, what am I supposed to do? I'm bringing the food up to the door and I'm supposed to leave it there they're running out there hugging me. And, just stuff like that. When I'm on my way home, when I get back to my job site, I get in my own personal car and I'm on my way home. Just thinking about that makes you feel so good as far as like you're doing what you're supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
Stay focused, you know what I mean? And that was the mentality that we had to have. There is always going to be ups and downs. There's going to be tragedy in one person's life, but we all, if one person was suffering, everybody was suffering.
Yeah.
And that's what I loved about our group as far as what we did together. Management was unbelievable. Like Rand had touched upon, I'd be out there doing traffic control after grab and go, and here comes David or Robert. They're working shoulder to shoulder with me. And you know, as long as I've been here, it's been a long time since I seen something like that. Mm-hmm. But someone like me, I appreciate that. I have the utmost respect for people that are willing to get down and dirty with me. And, you know, Mike also was Mike was one of the reasons why I was able to be a part of the task force. Mm-hmm. I was actually laid off because I was on the community center side. So I was let go and told to go home. And Mike was able to bring me back to help with the COVID task force. It happened like twice. So, you know, like I said, I was one of those guys that kind of filled the void wherever it was needed, or wherever there was a void. And, you know, I'm very thankful for the opportunity that was presented to me. And I appreciate everything. Other than that, thank you very much. And I hope that didn't kill the vibe or anything, but
no,
you know, I just wanted to say.
Oh, it did. It did. Cowboys. It did.
Okay.
That was great, Sylvia. That was great.
Yes, that
was great. Yeah.
But
I don't know if we talked about it because I'm all over the place in this house. But when, like, even after the grab and goes, all of the cars were gone, we took all of the extra food to the homeless. Like, we would, you know, 4 or 5 of us would jump in the car, make sure we were socially distanced in the van, and we would go and give the extra meals to the homeless. And like that in and of itself on the everyday is horrible.
You remember how dangerous it was in those alleys?
Yes.
And the
That's why we had to make sure that there was those 2 guys to help protect the girls when we would go out there and start handing out to the families that needed it.
Yeah.
But you're always going to see certain things that are, you know, you have to be safe when you're out there, especially in those alleys.
Yeah, because the desperation is already there on an everyday, but when there's no opportunity for these unhoused people to get money because there's no cars. You know, the people aren't walking in the stores. They're not stopping at lights. There's no way for them to get the essential things that they need. And then you have a group of gorgeous ladies in a car and you're going into an alley. Yeah, it was a lot. It was a lot.
I'm going to send you my invoice for being your bodyguard.
Yeah, they were going to the homeless as well as we had some contacts with men's and women's like homes and shelters that we were also bringing things to. So,
Lori, I think in terms of going above and beyond, there's one example that stands out to me, and I'm sure there are a million more, and I'm trying to rack my brain, but I know one of our grocery delivery teams arrived at a senior's home who had fallen, I think, and she was immobile and on the floor, and I think calling for help. And so they were able to call 911 and treat her. I mean, she was in the middle of a medical emergency, and not that that's above and beyond, but like, what a blessing! How great that the timing worked out and that they arrived when she was in need. And I don't know how it would have ended had they not come upon her and reached out and gotten her not just a grocery she needed, but literally saving her life.
Am I thinking of the same person?
Yeah, I was trying not to use any names.
No, but I was just going to add to that we're still assisting. We met her that way. She was a senior who, all people should ask for assistance. You know, she needs a lot. She lives alone. She doesn't have family local. We met her that way. She's still in our program. She has an emergency response system now. We still check in on her. We still call her, among many, many other seniors that we were lucky enough to meet during this time, as well as other residents. So,
yeah, for our grab and go, not everybody had a car, so we would have walk up, and these ladies would come out early in the morning and we had music going on, so why not dance? And we would dance until they got their food. And through that, there's some people I just can't get rid of if I wanted to. But they are just the sweetest ladies ever. And they call me for everything. And I've tried to tell them that Amanda is a better person than me, but they just call me all the time.
No,
and
they
I love
still
it.
call me and say, this is so-and-so, LaToya's best friend.
I think everyone inherited a lot of honorary grandparents throughout the pandemic.
Yes.
Call center, all of us, grab and go, walk up, everyone has an honorary grandparent or two after this experience.
That's exactly what I was going to say, is that I think many of us form strong bonds with certain individuals in the community, whether it was through the Grab and Go line or Essentials to Go program, that I know I still have ties and relationships with, and whatever it is that they need, I'm like, okay, I can, send you here, direct you here. And that also has to play back into like us all coming together in different departments. Now, each of us, I know if I call Vay, I'm like, hey, last minute, can you get some tables and chairs for me? It's like, no problem, Ray, I got you. Or Danny, whatever it is. And even with Amanda, I work with her all the time, and even LaToya and many others who were a part of the task force. It's, I can't specifically remember certain stories, but I know there were many of them during the time that we helped, and we went home and we're just feeling that wow, I just helped, so-and-so. And there was actually, now that I recall, there was one time, I know this is not very, I think his name was Ralph, and he came through. He was an older gentleman, and he wore hearing aids. And because of the mask, he was inside of his vehicle, but I guess when he took his mask off, his hearing aid fell out of the vehicle. And so when he came up into the line, he was in panic mode. He was almost in tears, because according to him, his wife had just bought him the hearing aids. And so, we get on the radios, call the team. Hey guys, we're looking for a hearing aid. And I'm like, okay, can you explain it to us? And it was one of the tiny, tiny ones. And then it's clear with maybe a little brown at the bottom. The team was all looking for it. And we were searching for some time, because, he's going throughout the line for the grab and go. So we're like, at what point did you remove your mask? So needless to say, we found it. And he was ecstatic. And he is one of the ones that still calls me. And, I have a good working relationship with him. And so it's just little stories like that. But
yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. We know there's many of them, and the relationships were developed. And thank you for still serving the seniors, because a lot of them were not using the city services before this. Mm-hmm. And so this has opened them up to having the support that they needed. So again, thank you for that. I guess we'll wind on down, and I'll ask, is there anything else that you want our listeners to know about the COVID-19 Task Force?
I do want to just say that we had a few businesses that helped. When I would call to say, we're trying to feed the task force, we're doing this. I mean, most of it was free. We did pay for some, because I work in small business. I'm always an advocate for the small business community, and they were going through the same thing that we were going through. So I didn't want to ask them for it was to, acknowledge that there are people that were on the task force, but they were also good people that own restaurants and took a loss in making sure that we had what we needed as a task force. And I think that should, Lori included, Juicy Juice, Tree, with their box lunches that we bought, they added extra stuff, and Uncle Darrow's and the Subway, that was a huge part of keeping us as sane as we could during a time of chaos.
Yeah. And that stuff kept up morale too, I think, also, because it was real easy to get down about what we were doing here maybe, but to know that there were other people out there that cared and were supporting us, and maybe they weren't right here with us, but they were from a distance helping us or wanting to be there was helpful for sure.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I think that's what I was going to touch on. I know we've sort of jokingly mentioned the Spirit Squad a couple of times, and we probably didn't really explain that, but by default, Amanda and Latoya sort of took the lead on that. And it just came down to the mental health of the task force members and feeling a little beat down sometimes based on what we're experiencing and other people's reactions to it. And so they were really focused on finding ways to keep everyone's spirits up. And they were amazing at that, despite their own fears and, their own concern about their risk of exposure. But that even led to other programs. So not only the collaborations, like you've already mentioned, but Amanda created this program during that time called Silver Cheer. And the employees who are still here at work, she invited them to, on their own time and with their own money, create the care packages for isolated and homebound seniors. And it did, obviously it did a world of good for those seniors who were surprised with a care package, and they were tailored to them because Amanda knows these seniors, right? And so she would give us a list, but city employees volunteered to sign up to kind of adopt a senior and provide a care package. And it did wonders for our own morale. It was just so nice to serve someone in that kind of personal way where, like they don't have any options. They may not talk to anyone the whole week. They don't have family in town. They're not seeing anyone. They're so isolated. And there were really beautiful programs that came out of the task force, aside from, the ones that we have data for. And it's something that continues to this day. It wasn't a one-time thing. It's a new program under Amanda's purview. Same with virtual programs. Like, I didn't even know what Zoom was before the pandemic. I've never even heard of that, but now we're all super familiar. But we're still offering virtual fitness programs for seniors who are not comfortable coming in and taking yoga or taking Zumba or salsa. It's 3 years later and we're still offering those programs virtually. So it really led to a lot of beautiful programs, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Very true.
Awesome. So before I let us all go, I want to say that we're celebrating. We're in our 55th year here in the city of Carson. You guys are all city employees. You may have tuned in to the State of the City by our mayor. And are there some things that you all are excited about in the city of Carson as we move forward?
I would like to share. I think I kind of touched a little bit on it earlier, but considering our executive level leadership that we currently have, that we were all led by during the pandemic and during the Dominguez Channel incident, I think we all as staff have a good understanding that we're in good hands. And it's going back to how our ship is rowing. And I think it's exciting because staff, the morale, it's different. It's a different energy in our city. And I think staff is excited to see where we're going and how we're going to execute, whether it's programming, events, public safety. There's a lot of moving parts right now. And I think each of us, whether it's us on the call and or others who are participating in the on the task force, each of us are in roles that are impacting in a positive way for our residents. And I think we're moving forward. And as someone always says, onward and upward. And I truly feel that.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for sharing that, because that is very important, that the morale of the team, or not just the team, of the city employees is in a better place, because we know where we've been. And so it's good to hear that we're going upward. Would anyone have anything else to share before we close? I would like to thank you all. I know today is Friday. The city is closed on Friday. So again, you guys have gone above and beyond joining us here on Cat's podcast to share with our residents how we ran the city when everything was shut down. So again, we thank you for that. Thank you for joining the show. And thank you all for listening to the Carson Observer podcast, connecting education and informing the residents and stakeholders of the city of Carson. Take care and be on the lookout for future episodes.